Hello, everybody. Here we are for, I think we're going to call it episode 12.5, the episode nobody wants to see. I've got my founding partner, business partner, colleague, Alex Zeta here. And between you, we're going to have a crack at answering the three questions ourselves. So, hi, Alec. How are you?
Good, thanks, James. How are you doing?
I'm all right. What's on the T-shirt?
Yeah, you can tell I wasn't expecting to do this today because it is an Andy Warhol themed T-shirt, and I'm also
Yeah,
wearing Birkenstocks. So I'm glad you can't see them on camera.
classic you. Birkenstocks for the winter and boat shoes for the... No, Birkenstocks for the summer. Boat shoes for the winter.
Quite right.
Yeah, well, yeah, you can tell it's August because we've run out of content ideas. So here we are, ahead of a little break. I think we're going to have a break and come back with some exciting guests in September. We thought we'd have a crack at this ourselves. So let's go straight into it. I think Alec's going to answer the first question for the both of us, and then we'll both give an answer on question 2 and 3. So, Alec, what is it you do again?
Great question. So I'm a co-founding partner of Vox Partners, and simply put, we are a business established earlier this year to introduce exceptional policy, public affairs, and communications professionals with organisations who've got something to say. So we are a recruitment business, and we put together outstanding candidates with clients who we handpick and want to work with, and who we are convinced can offer great career progression for said candidates.
Yeah, and I think an important reminder to everyone that we do actually do recruitment rather than just talking to comms people on the internet.
We are not a content agency.
I think all the evidence would suggest that's absolutely...
Maybe it was good to do this just so we absolutely make that clear to everybody.
Yeah, exactly. We can hire your director and heads of, and simple, brilliant.
And have done very successfully, so plug over.
I think it's a good answer. Only thing I would add to that is we want to work with people who value the function and get it, and leaders who think that these sorts of hires are going to be important, imperative to their organisation's success. And luckily enough, we've been able to work with 3 or 4 organisations in our first few months who have leaders who feel exactly that way, which has been great. So thanks for that. Thanks for answering that so I don't have to. So looking back over your career, is there a piece of advice you'd offer your younger self that you wish you'd taken?
Yeah, there is a piece of advice I always come back to, and in all honesty, it was given to me. So this isn't... this isn't new advice, but it's all about your network. And, 15 years ago when I started out, that was networking events, that was going to the pub, on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, sometimes even Friday evening, making sure you were out and about and visible and meeting interesting people. A mutual connection of ours used to say, make sure you are both interesting and interested. And I think that's, really, really good advice for putting yourself in rooms where, let's be honest, you do sometimes feel uncomfortable, but that network, as we are seeing the benefits of 15 years later, that network stays with you. Yeah, it's changed a little bit. Online networking is as important now as the face-to-face stuff, and people go to the pub a little bit less, but your network is key.
I did think we'd go to the pub more when we started this business, to be honest, but maybe
I think that was in the business plan.
Yeah, maybe that's to come, bringing back the working lunch. Yeah, and it's funny how often that's come up in these conversations, and I think that point around the fact that actually it is pretty horrible sometimes, and it's not a lot of fun, and going to events and things, but not all networking has to be that way, and actually your network becomes an extension of your social network in many ways. People buy from people at the end of the day, don't they?
Yeah, and I would say, it has got noticeably more difficult in the past few years, certainly since, the early days of the pandemic. And you used to be able to find 2 or 3 networking events every week without fail if you put yourself out there, and it is more difficult now. So, I do think the onus is more on people, and I do feel sorry for people at the beginning of their careers. It is more difficult. You have to go out of your way to find those opportunities, but it really does add such value to your career and your future career prospects. So, yeah, the advice remains.
It's funny. I think we've both felt that more in the last 6 months than any other point in our career, how hard it is to find really good networking events to go to. We're both very good at finding people to have coffees with and all that sort of stuff, and that's part of it. But it does seem that world has dried up a little bit since COVID.
Yeah, most definitely. What about you? Flipping the question back on you.
Good answer. Unsurprisingly, I've not thought about this at all, despite the fact this is the 13th time I've done this. I think if I look back on my career, if anything's held me back, it's my obsession with being liked. And I think that the problem with wanting to be liked by everyone is, A, it's impossible, right? and B, it stops you from being yourself in certain situations. And I think it means you hold a bit back of yourself, which particularly in a business environment, but also in life, isn't actually particularly useful. I think the sooner you can accept the fact that not everyone's going to like you, but that doesn't really matter. It's about seeking out people who you can have valuable discourse with and have honest conversations with, the further you're going to go. I'll be honest, it wasn't really until we made the decision to do this that I came to terms with the fact that it's okay. And actually it's about doing something that's going to move my career forward or move someone else's career forward or have an impact that matters most. So it's not to say go out of your way to be mean and horrible and difficult.
Yeah.
It's just be true to yourself, for want of a better phrase.
I've definitely mentioned this book to you personally off air, but maybe an interesting time just to plug it for anyone who is interested. There's a great book called The Courage to Be Disliked.
Yeah.
And I'm going to absolutely butcher the name of the author, and I do apologize, but Ichiro Kishimi. It's a really interesting book, and it touches on so much of what you've just talked about. So yeah, for anyone interested, The Courage to Be Disliked.
Yeah, we've done a lot of exchanging of self-help books in the last some of which have been really good, some of which are less so, but there you go. Good, excellent. So I think the question that people find hardest to answer is that, because we're so used to just being in our lane, I suppose, it's that question of, so if you weren't the founding partner of Vox Partners and a leading light in the world of policy, public affairs and communications recruitment, what would you be doing?
Oh, it's a great question. And I'm going to cheat a little bit with my answer. I think the one thing I always regret in my career, and I don't regret much, is not working in Parliament. I would have loved to start my career out post-university and having done that classic, parliamentary assistant type role. I've always been obsessed with politics. I've always been interested in how things work. And I do regret not doing a job like that straight out of uni or later, of course, doesn't have to be straight out of uni. That may very well have still led me to where I am today. But I think I really would have enjoyed that opportunity to work at the heart of, politics, in the UK and further afield as well. So a little bit of a cheat of an answer, but I think that was the one thing that came to mind when you asked the question. That is probably the one thing that I would have loved to have done.
Yeah, I think that's the thing about, because we're adjacent to that world, I think the thing that comes up regularly for both of us is how cool it is work in comms and public affairs, because you are right at the sharp edge of power and you can have a massive impact. So there's a chap coming up who I interviewed for September, who started his career as a staffer in Number 10 and actually says something along the lines of, the problem is that set the bar really, really high in my career. And it was a bit of a crash landing back into something that was maybe not quite as exciting and in the corridors of power. But there is a romanticism, I think, to the world of external affairs that is probably why we've both stuck with this instead of going and doing financial recruitment.
We could have earned a lot more money.
Yeah, millionaires, couldn't we? But, that's a good answer.
What about you then? If it wasn't, founding partner of Vox Partners, what would you be doing?
Well, it's funny because you asked yesterday, because basically I'm your TV guide essentially. But you asked yesterday about The Bear, which I think is one of the best TV shows to come out of anything in the last few years. And it is mega stressful, and it's, for those who don't know, it's about being a chef. I kind of started in the world of hospitality, and that show makes me wish I'd stuck with it a bit longer. It has to be said. I think in an ideal world, money would be no object, so you wouldn't be worried about keeping the wolf from the door. But I'd love to be running a really good pub that serves simple but world-class food with a couple of mates. So I think that's the thing I always come back to. I love hospitality, and any excuse we get, which isn't very often these days with two young kids, we want to be hosting and barbecuing and having plenty for meals. So maybe one day me and Lou will retire and run be somewhere by the ocean or something.
Well, look, if there's any career that's going to satisfy your objective to speak regularly and continuously and at length, if it's not recruiter, it is probably barkeep.
Good, excellent. All right, well, there you go. There's the episode.
Thank you for having me on as a guest.
Pleasure, mate. The episode no one wants to hear, but they're going to hear anyway. So, I guess the last thing to say is see you at the top.
See you there.